Hi, I'm Phil Palucha from Billionaires in Boxers, and you are about to engage with Up-Level Your Communication, hosted by Miluna. Wow, this is going to be powerful. Communication is at the heart of everything that is good about business and about sharing with your fellow humans, and Miluna is phenomenal at helping you share that message and also interview some pretty special and amazing guests too. Check it out right now.
Welcome to Up-Level Your Communication. I'm your host, Dr. Miluna Fausch. Listen to the music of your soul. Your voice matters, and on this show, expert guests will talk about the voice and intentional, enlightened communication, because this is how you will influence and impact the world. Hello and welcome to Up-Level Your Communication. Sarah, my guest today, was born Gita in India, placed in one of Mother Teresa's orphanages, and adopted by a family in Boston at 18 months. She has had a career in the Army. She's an investor, a businesswoman, and a leader who worked for the Pentagon, Alaska Airlines, and Boeing. Her message is a movement from where we are to where we can be. Let that sink in. She's joining us from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and we're going to talk about something serious that needs to be talked about: workplace violence. This is her expertise. May I present Sarah Margalus.
Thank you so much, Miluna.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. Let's jump right in. First, please define for us, what is workplace violence?
Sure. So workplace violence could be anything stemming from bullying, harassment, intimidation, physical threat, perceived threat, anything that falls under that. And it's all perception. So something that I think that is possibly bullying, somebody else may interpret that differently. However, it still all should be reported, and it all should be taken seriously until further investigation.
Wow. And I believe our society denies most of the violence in our country, and it's deeply disturbing and disappointing. I had conversations with mostly men when I lived near San Francisco, and I worked with Love Never Fails to stop human trafficking. And people would continually say to me, that doesn't exist. Sex trafficking does not exist in San Francisco. Oh, Why is this something you personally witnessed early on? Or let's say, how did this become your mission and what you knew you were here to change and stop?
Sure. I actually started with investigations when I was in the Army. So I did a lot of investigations on any type of violence, soldier to soldier, or we were deployed overseas. So there was a lot of things that were going on that either were not being reported or were that needed investigation. So I started that well over 20 some years ago, without aging myself. And when I left the Army, I continued on at the Pentagon and furthered on into corporate after that. And I really got into threat management when I was actually asked by a company to come in and help do investigations on the Me Too movement. So, and that's kind of where in the corporate world, I really started working with threat management. It was important to me to know that people's stories were heard and not dismissed just because they thought it couldn't happen to their company.
Ooh, good point. Not in my backyard.
Right.
Not in my company. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it is happening. And what inspired you then or before, all of this is your experience and your expertise, to establish your consulting company, Soterian? And what vision do you have for the company's future in this realm of threat management and prevention in the first place?
Right. So, I started Soterian Consulting because this is something near and dear to my heart. I don't condone violence. I also don't condone bullying or harassment or intimidation. That's where it starts before it becomes physical. Because it can really affect somebody mentally if they're being harassed or bullied. And that doesn't happen just on the schoolyard or stop at grade 12. It continues on into the workplace. And for me, I ended up, my last corporate position, I wrote the policy and started the program for workplace violence prevention. And for me, I truly enjoyed it. But at the same point, I thought to myself after a couple of years, I'm only helping one company and I'm only helping one set of employees. If I can do this on my own and continue to help other companies, small, medium, large, as well as K through 12 and universities as well. I think that's something where it's bigger than myself. I was in the Army to be part of something bigger than myself. And now this for me is if my seminars, my tabletops, any type of my training for any company or K through 12 or university can help save a life or prevent any type of violence in somebody's life, that's more meaningful to me than staying at one company. And that's why I want to help other companies with this.
Gorgeous. The impact reaches out.
Thank you.
And can only make a much bigger difference. We always need something bigger than us, don't we, to really make that difference we are here to make.
Yes.
And I love the name of your company. Share with us the beautiful meaning behind the very purposeful name of your practice.
Well, with Soterian, I needed it to be, if it was going to be my company, I needed it to mean something. And basically, Soteria was the Greek goddess of salvation and protection from harm. So for me, I thought that was perfect. Our logo is a lion's head, and I'm a Leo. But at the same point, lions also protect other animals in the kingdom as well as own the kingdom. So it was something that was near and dear to me, and it needed to mean something that I could push forward in the sense of understand what people understand why we're here to help, basically.
So gorgeous.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. You reveal that 25% of workplace violence is not reported. Is this comparable to the number of unreported rapes? Is it similar?
It could be similar. It could be. I don't have the statistics on rape, sexual assault, sexual harassment, or whatnot. However, and that data changes, and that data changes sometimes, on a monthly basis, depending on what's going on in the country, in the world, whatnot. But it is underreported, and I think that's an issue. Is a lot of people, and I'm specifically talking in the workplace, corporate America, is people do not want to report any type of harassment or bullying, intimidation, or the fact that somebody has verbally threatened them or had a perceived threat due to retaliation, due to them falling under an investigation, them having a target on their back at this point for possibly, being a problem at work, even though they are not a problem, but that's the mindset. And, they will just deal with it versus report it. And that's why it goes underreported, on that sense, which is, it, like you said, is very similar to any type of rape, sexual harassment, sexual assault, whether it's in the workplace or outside of the workplace.
Violence is violence, isn't it? And we're talking about no matter what we're speaking of. So there are consequences, aren't there? And that's why people are reluctant.
Correct.
To report.
Mm-hmm.
What emerging trends in workplace security and violence prevention that should businesses be aware of? Give us 2 or 3 ways. How can they be aware and prepare and prevent?
Right. Well, the first thing they need to do is have a policy. They need to have a program that addresses this. I've been to many other companies, and some of this all rolls under the human resources piece. However, they're not everybody is an expert in workplace violence prevention, and may have to call in a consultant like myself to come in and help with that. And that's perfectly fine as long as they ensure that the person dealing with the actual threat or perceived bullying, harassment, intimidation, has the experience to do that. The other piece is I think a lot of companies have a program like this, but there's no anonymous way to report this as well. And if you don't have a way to report it, it's never going to be reported. And if you have to have a safe way to report it, I think that's the biggest thing is people need to feel secure and knowing that, it's a very vulnerable position to be in to bring that up. A lot of people won't even bring it up with their families because it can be embarrassing, it can be shameful, and it also they don't want to be retaliated against to say that they can't handle the workforce. That's a big deal. Another piece is the training, right? So we have to ensure that what are the warning signs? What signs do you see in a person that could potentially be a violent person? And we see this in every case study that happens with violence in the workplace, possibly, active shooter, mass shooter. There's always warning signs that are not picked up. And that's something I really specialize in is learning those warning signs and learning when someone is on the pathway to violence, basically.
Wow. As you said, there are always warning signs. Anything we can think of is if it was ignored, people don't know what to do.
Right.
This is huge, isn't it?
Right.
Know what to look for, pay attention, and take it seriously.
Correct. Absolutely.
Wow. Now, can you share some of the core strategies and practices that organizations should prioritize to enhance workplace safety?
Well, I think the biggest thing is to let employees know that priority is their number one priority. That's very redundant how I said that. However,
priority is the priority. Safety is the safety, right?
But it should be, safety should be number one priority. If you are hired by a company to work there, and this doesn't have to be in the office, this can also be remote because we can bring in another subject of domestic violence as well. So I think companies need to ensure that employees know that they're concerned about their safety, and by implementing a program, hiring a consultant like myself, there's many of us out there that can come in and discuss the warning signs, what their priority is. I recently was just working with a company that it was a very small company, about 40 employees, and during it, they stopped me and they told me that they really appreciated their boss, and he owns the company, that they appreciated the fact that they brought me in because they did not think the way that I thought and how I was teaching. And it was a warehouse type of scenario. And we were kind of going through little scenarios of if somebody walked in the front door or somebody walked through the loading dock or anything like that. And the scenarios put them in a situation where they normally wouldn't think of. So, I think that's the biggest thing is when companies invest in their employees and their safety, they're not only just investing in their own employees, but they're investing in the employees' families, because everybody's family wants that employee to go to work, but also be able to come home safely as well.
Wow, I love it. It's a perspective shift, isn't it? And educating us in things I'm not a violent person. I'm not going to probably see that. I would get a bad feeling or something in my body, be an emotional reaction. And we need to honor all of that, don't we? If it doesn't feel right, let's take a look here.
Right. Exactly.
That's huge. Keeping people safe, the business safe. It's all an ideal place to work. And
Right.
God, that's a basic human need.
It is.
It should not be ignored. If we're not safe, we're never going to be productive.
Right.
Or happy or anything else, are we?
Right. And I think that's the biggest part of it is I feel if employees feel safe and they know that their higher management, their board, the CEO, anybody that can make decisions, the decision makers really, if they put the effort and priority into safety for their employees, those employees will feel happier. But then, like you said, they will be more productive and they'll want to work there and they'll have pride in working there because they know that they're looked at as a person and not just a number in a company, basically.
Beautifully said. They'll know the boss cares. We'll say the boss cares. Just cares about me, so I'm going to stick around.
Right. Exactly.
Now, why is ethical leadership, one of my favorite topics in the whole world, such a significant focus? I know you to be a woman of integrity and ethics. Not everyone is. It's so hard for me to see that sometimes or acknowledge it. Why don't you just know what ethics? But we don't. You'd have to be taught. So how can a business or company better integrate ethical leadership principles into their entire culture?
My personal opinion on that, and I do. I think ethics is extremely important in leadership, and only and leaders that follow their own ethics and values and pass that on to whoever works with them, for them, side by side with them, is extremely important. But it all comes down to you're working with humans. I mean, that's what it is. These people have families, they have children, they have mothers, they have fathers, they have husbands and wives, and they're people. And the only reason we work is to ensure that we can live our lives, right? But the ethics goes on to the sense of they also have lives. So they need a work-life balance in the sense of, we don't want them working 80 hours a week because then they don't have the energy to spend with their families. And, we see it all the time in the sense of, they spent too much time ensuring that they were at work to get promotions, to do whatnot, and really trying to climb a corporate ladder when, unfortunately, sometimes the ethics isn't there and layoffs happen, and layoffs have to happen sometimes due to changes in the industry and whatnot. There's a way to deal with that in the sense of making sure that person and their family is okay. And that's where the ethics comes in. Leadership is leadership, and sometimes it's just a title. You have to live it as well. And you have to show that you're a leader, and taking care of people. And sometimes that's taking phone call, and you can't be too busy for your employees either. You have to ensure that you make time for them. If you have an open door policy, you have to abide by that and make time for that person to come in and talk to you about what they're worried about. But again, it also has to, you have to have open conversations and be transparent. That's a big one, is the transparency and the trust issue. That comes with leadership and ethics as well.
Beautiful. Yes. Open, taking the risk to communicate clearly and from an honest and clear way. Also kind way, I think. Right. Be in the mix there. Now, this particular show, speaking of communication, is about communication, and it's key to our leadership. This is something that's missed. It's so foundational. Sarah, how do you look at effective communication in all the many roles and voices you have as a businesswoman and an entrepreneur?
I think transparency is huge. We're all vulnerable. We all have our up days. We all have our down days. And I think that's you have to be able to communicate that, yes, I am a business person. I continue to strive, and be successful. And, but at the same point, I am not a person that, I need my sleep. I need to eat. I need the normal things that everybody does. I need my friends, my family. And you have your, like I said, you have your ups and you have your downs, and, you have to be, able to be vulnerable as well. And you need to be able to talk to people. I think that's the biggest thing. If you hold it all in, and try to be, I can do this and I don't need any help, or, I don't even need to, relay my feelings to anybody. I think that's where the vulnerability comes in. And you need, me personally, I try to be vulnerable with people that, it's not always easy. It's never, if it was easy, everybody would do it, but they don't. So, I think that's the biggest thing is communication. I try to do this, when I give my seminars or I do a briefing for, a company, is everybody needs to be able to there's not always going to be full trust, but to be able to talk and say, I don't think this is right. Or like you said earlier, you get a gut feeling about something. And you have to be able to communicate in that sense. And if we hold it all in, it doesn't do us any good, and it doesn't do anybody else around us any good. So, communication is key in every aspect of life, really.
Wow. So voices are heard. I like to say, make sure everyone has a chance. As you said, anonymous feedback or reporting, make it easy for people to speak up.
Right.
Because not everyone will or is comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
It's not always comfortable, is it? Even for me, with all these years, or you being in the Army and all this experience we have, it's not always easy to confront. I'm willing to take the risk to get to a deeper relationship with my communication.
Right. And I think that's very important, is to have the outlets in order to be able to communicate. And let everybody, like you had just said, let everybody have a voice, because they deserve, no matter where they're working, whether it's a company that has 5 people or a company that has 5,000 people, everybody should have a voice in saying, maybe we could do this better, or maybe we should think about this. And that ties back into the leadership piece of it, is be open-minded to listen to other ideas, because you never want to be the smartest person in the room because it's quite boring, So, you always want to be learning, and you always want to hear other people's perspectives. And I think that's what great communication is you don't always have to agree, but at the same point, you can learn something from somebody else.
Wow. What advice would you offer to aspiring professionals? Maybe it's a career in military, you can speak to that, or workplace security, or even entrepreneurship. I think the way you've combined everything you've ever done into one business is amazing. Well, you have more than one, but your focus is under one umbrella, I call it. Stopping the violence. What advice would you give to somebody listening in our audience that's saying, I'm interested in that? Or military? What would you say?
Well, I'll start with the military, since that's what I did first. The military, to me, again, it was being part of something bigger than you. I compare it a lot. I was never a police officer or firefighter, EMS, but it's the same thing. And there's a calling to help other people, basically. And the military is the grand scheme. We are globally, police officers in their community. They're police officers become police officers to ensure everybody else is safe. Firefighters are the same way. EMS are the same way, to help, right? And I think that's where your mindset needs to be, is, in my opinion, at least how my career went, is how do we continue to help others, based off of experience, right? With the entrepreneurship, like I said earlier, is I chose to start this company, and my other company is to make sure, we're helping other people. Instead of just working at one company, I know I have value to bring to other people. And I hope, like my whole goal is to ensure that they take it, bring it back to their families, understand the safety information that I've given them, and utilize that, whether it's at a gas station, a grocery store, in their spouse's work, their children's school, anything like that. It's to share the information. This information is not information that's proprietary to anybody. Everybody should know this. So, yeah, but I think that's, you have to figure out within yourself what you want to do and how do you want to, in my situation, help other people. But at the same point, work hard to be able to do that and ensure that other people know that we are just here for ourselves. We're here for other people as well. And it's human kindness, really. I mean, that's the foundation, is strictly kindness. We have to be nicer to everybody.
We really do. And love are needed, and in a huge way,
Right.
among our planet here. More of that, please.
Yes.
Now, you help a lot of companies, but let's identify the people that you can help the most. I know there are several businesses, nonprofit schools, and universities, I believe.
Mhm.
Tell us all the people that you can work with and help.
I that's a loaded question, but it's
Because some people say everybody, yes, but yes.
yeah.
A lot of folks need this. Who do you really want to work with and help?
Right. So I always say that the way workplace violence, active shooter prevention is, if you work at all, if you have children in school, if you have children at university, you are in university, your admin staff, faculty, anything like that. You work at a law firm, you work at a daycare, you work at a grocery store, you work at a Fortune 500 company. You work at a very small warehouse construction site, or you work, that's what I say. It's very broad, but everybody needs to know safety and security. That's the biggest piece of it. It's not only, now we have a lot of professionals in this field that hone in on certain industry, right? And we have a lot in school security, which is amazing. We want our children to be safe. We have a lot that do strictly just big companies, right? Me personally, I love talking and interacting with people about this, because it brings their creative mind in. If you do a tabletop with somebody and give them a situation that they would never have thought about, and we just did this last week with a group, it was amazing, the creativity that even, I consider myself an expert in the field, and they brought up things where I was like, wow. I'm like, okay, because I'm so dialed in on it. This is perspective on another level. So I always say, if you go in public, because workplace violence, for kids, it's their workplaces in the school. K through 12, those students, that's their workplace. University, that's those college students' workplace. If you work at a daycare, that's where, sometimes domestic, and I mention all these companies because there's always been a situation where this has happened. So at daycare, you wouldn't think, but at the same point, sometimes a custody battle, or you never know, like any type of domestic dispute or anything like that could be going on. Law firms, we had the Las Vegas law firm shooting as well. So there was, there's a lot of companies that don't think never will happen to us. Go to the grocery store. It would never happen there. It happened at Walmart in Chesapeake, Virginia, a couple years ago. It's happened in many other places. Violence happens everywhere. It happens on the street. We just saw what happened last week in New York with United Healthcare. So that is something, there's more information about that, and it will come out throughout the next months. However, it happens everywhere, and that's why I say clients, and this is a long version answer. But I say if you are out in public, and if you even if you work at home, you may know somebody who's affected. It may not affect you, but it may affect somebody else that may be in your life. And that could be family, it could be friends, it could be coworkers, colleagues, anything like that. So that is a long answer.
You've helped so many, and there are many more people to help.
Yes.
So fantastic. And you make a great point. The shooting of the healthcare CEO, that is the more we uncover, as you said earlier, the more disturbed clearly this man was. So warning signs were probably ignored. And this is a perfect example and a tragic example of this. So, Sarah, how can folks reach you, get more information, bring you into their workplace, their university, to ensure a safe and I'm not sure of the earth word to use, I say, but a safe and wonderful and place people want to work. Good work is done. They're fulfilled. They're happy and safe. How can folks reach out to you?
Sure. So Soterian Consulting, that's the company. That's at soterianconsulting@gmail.com. We also have the website, soterianconsulting.com. It was the website. And then also, sarahmargalus.com is my other website. So, anything like that. I mean, I do, prioritize, the safety and security of, like I said, K through 12 university, all types of businesses. But I also discuss leadership, training as well, and, women's advocacy and, self-worth and anything. Again, it's all human. It all goes back to being kind, taking care of yourself, making sure you're taking care of other people as well. And that's me in a nutshell, I suppose. So
I think so. It's who you are, and you're out there making that impact. It's a beautiful thing. Sarah, thank you so much for shining a light on something that's uncomfortable, unreported sometimes, something we need to be aware of, especially those folks who have a business place, a restaurant. Things can happen. Let's get in front of all this. Thank you so much for doing what you do and bringing more kindness and a movement from where we want to be to where we can be.
great. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
To our audience, we're so glad you were here for this very important topic. Be sure to reach out to Sarah if she can help you at all. I know she can, or she'll find a resource for you. And stay tuned. Look for more incredible episodes of Uplevel Your Communication coming soon. And we'll say bye for now.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to our show. If you'd like to have a conversation about how developing your communication and presence skills will connect you to opportunities, impact, income, and fulfillment, let's talk about your future. Go to milunafausch.com and book a conversation with me. You can also find out more about my Forbes book and our podcast music, Strong Body.
Thank you for enjoying this content by Billionaires in Boxes. If you would like to be a guest or a host, be sure to get in contact with us at billionairesinboxes.com.